Chapter 1. Strangers on the Starliner. The passenger Starliner Aurora's wake drifted against a field of distant suns, its hull gleaming with cobalt plating and arcs of neon that pulsed like veins of light. Inside, the ship hummed with a steady thrum of fusion drives and the occasional groan of expanding metal. Ethan Ward adjusted the strap of his battered duffel as he stepped off the docking umbilical and into the main corridor, where polished alloy walls reflected the glow of crystalline light panels. The air smelled faintly of ozone and spiced oils, alien perfumes carried from a dozen different worlds. He could hear fragments of voices, clicks, trills, and guttural tones that didn't belong to any human tongue. Ethan had been stationed on plenty of ships before, but always under Earth's flag, surrounded by familiar accents. Here his was the odd voice out. His boots struck hollow notes as he followed the guidance hologram toward his cabin. 1 week aboard. Keep your head down. Don't make waves. He reminded himself. He was just another passenger now, not a decorated pilot. Not the man who'd once saved convoys from pirate fire only to be scapegoated by his own commanders. The cabin door hissed open, and there she stood, tall, armored in a sleeveless travel tunic that shimmered like molten silver. The alien woman regarded him with slitted amethyst eyes. Her skin gleamed faintly in the light, a pale shade edged with iridescent scales that caught even the weakest glow. She didn't flinch at his entrance, merely tilted her head as though considering whether to draw a weapon or laugh. "This unit is occupied," she said, her voice rich, layered with a strange resonance. Ethan blinked, lifting his ID slate. "Cabin 14B. That's me." The woman held up her own slate. The glyphs of the Veyrathi language shimmered across the hollow display. "Cabin 14B. They stared at each other, then back at the narrow room behind her. One bed, broad for a human, modest for her height. No bunks, no divider curtain. Just one. Must be a clerical error," Ethan muttered. Her eyes narrowed. "The Veyrathi do not suffer errors. If the ship assigned us here, then here we remain." She stepped aside, deliberately slow, her gaze measuring him. "Unless you intend to sleep on the corridor floor, human." Ethan exhaled sharply, throwing his duffel onto the single chair by the desk. The mattress gave a faint hiss of air pressure adjustment, as if mocking him. "Guess we're roommates." She didn't smile, but something flickered in her expression. Interest or annoyance? He couldn't tell. "Do not mistake proximity for permission. Keep to your side." The hum of the engines deepened, the faint pull of acceleration tugging at Ethan's stomach. He looked past her to the viewport where streaks of starlight began to blur, the ship sliding into FDL. A universe of dangers and wonders lay ahead, and he was starting in a cabin with a stranger who looked like she could crush him with one hand. Yet as she folded her arms and claimed the far corner of the bed with regal precision, Ethan found himself grinning despite everything. Humans, after all, had a knack for surviving in the strangest places, and maybe, just maybe, for surprising even the most unshakable of alien warriors. Chapter 2. Cultures in Collision. The Aurora's wake pulsed with life. Its central promenade stretched like a cathedral corridor, lined with stalls and pavilions glowing in every imaginable hue. Fragrant vapors curled from alien spice vendors. There were sizzling and hovering pans. Translucent water creatures swam lazily through anti-grav spheres, offered as delicacies to those who could afford them. Hollow signs flickered in languages Ethan couldn't read, each character twisting into impossible angles. Ethan adjusted his jacket and trailed half a step behind Serena Kale, who walked with the easy poise of a predator. Her presence parted the crowd. Her height and the shimmer of her scaled skin marked her Veyrathi heritage unmistakably. To Ethan, she looked like living metal in motion. To everyone else, she looked untouchable. "You glare at every stall as they're preparing for battle," Ethan said, trying for lightness. Her gaze, snapped to him. Because a battle is always waiting human. Even here, he smirked, letting his eyes wander to a vendor juggling steaming skewers of something that looked suspiciously like tentacles. We call this kind of place a marketplace. Not exactly a battlefield back home. Yet you still posture. Her tone carried faint amusement. Ethan raised his hands in surrender. Guilty. Humans can't help it. We crack jokes when things are tense. Keeps us from snapping. Her expression shifted, subtle but telling. Curiosity mingled with disbelief. Just in the face of danger. How inefficient. Before Ethan could reply, a scuffle broke out at a nearby stall. A hulking reptilian trader shoved a smaller, insectoid customer aside, mandibles clicking in protest. Serenia tensed, her hand hovering near the hilt of a blade hidden beneath her tunic. Ethan stepped forward first. "Easy there," he said, putting himself between the trader and the insectoid. His voice carried no threat, just a calm firmness. Crowds are bad enough without starting a riot. The reptilian sneered, baring serrated teeth. "This not your affair, Softskin." Ethan didn't budge. "Maybe not, but if the ship's security has to haul you off, I'm betting your profits end here." For a moment, the air hung heavy with the scent of charred oils and ozone. Then, with a guttural snort, the trader shoved past and stalked off, muttering curses. The insectoid bowed awkwardly and scuttled away. Ethan let out a breath, then turned to find Serenia studying him. Not the way a warrior judged a rival, but as though she were seeing something new. "You had no weapon," she said quietly. "No armor. Yet you placed yourself in the path of a stronger foe." "That's what we do," Ethan replied, rolling his shoulders. "Sometimes you stand up even if you're outmatched. Sometimes that's the only reason anyone else dares to stand at all." For the first time, her lips curved just slightly, not quite a smile, but enough to crack her polished veneer. The hum of the ship vibrated beneath their feet, and for the first time since they had been forced to share a room, Ethan felt the distance between them shrink. Chapter 3. The Pirate Ambush. The Aurora's wake sailed through the dark seam of hyperspace, its engines thrumming like a distant storm. Passengers had settled into the illusion of safety. Soft music humming from hollow panels, the faint perfume of alien spices lingering in the corridors. Then the ship shuddered. Ethan jerked awake from half-sleep in the cabin, thrown against the wall as gravity flickered. A red emergency glyph splashed across the doorframe. Beyond it, the muffled hiss of alarms rose into a shriek. Serenia was already on her feet, her iridescent skin catching the crimson glow. "Raiders," she spat, her voice hard as alloy. Ethan grabbed his boots, pulling them on while the cabin lights pulsed. "How can you tell?" She bared her teeth. "That tremor, that was a strike ship latching to our hull. They will cut their way inside." The ship lurched again, lights dimming, and suddenly the corridor outside filled with a sound of screaming. Ethan shoved the door open. Passengers stumbled in panic. Some clutching children, others weighed down with cargo they refused to abandon. The air carried the stench of burning insulation. "Stay behind me." Serenia snapped, pushing forward like a living blade. But Ethan broke toward a group of terrified humans huddled by the bulkhead, their limbs jerking as gravity wavered. "Move!" he barked, ushering them toward the lifeboat signs. "Don't freeze. Follow the dam lights." The ceiling split with sparks as a hatch hissed open. 3 raiders spilled into the corridor, scarred exosuits painted with crude symbols, weapons glowing. Their boots clamped to the deck, unaffected by the gravity surges. Passengers scattered. Ethan's heart hammered, instincts pulling him back to a dozen battlefields. He snatched a fire-suppressing canister from the wall and hurled it. It clanged off the first raider's visor, bursting into a blinding mist of white vapor. "Now!" he shouted. Serenia didn't hesitate. Her blade flashed from its sheath, cut into the cloud in a deadly arc. A raider crumpled, sparks spraying from his chest plate. The others fired blindly, shots sizzling against the bulkhead. Ethan threw himself flat, grabbing a maintenance hatch lever and yanking it down. Emergency shutters slammed closed between the raiders and the fleeing civilians. The corridor went silent except for the hiss of vapor and the pounding of Ethan's pulse. Serenia turned, her amethyst eyes glowing in the half-light. You improvised. Risked yourself for strangers not of your blood. Ethan rose, wiping vapor from his jacket. That's kind of our thing. Humans don't sit still and wait to die. She studied him, truly studied him, her chest rising and followed with something close to awe. The alarms blared again, promising more battles to come. But for the first time, Serenia Kale did not see Ethan as a fragile passenger. She saw him as dangerous and worth watching. Chapter 4, One Bed, One Truth. The ship's alarms had gone silent hours ago, replaced by the steady thrum of damaged engines struggling to hold course. The corridor still smelled faintly of scorched metal, and every few minutes the Aurora's wake creaked like a wounded beast. In their cabin, dim emergency lights cast everything in shades of amber and shadow. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, peeling away a burned sleeve. His arm was raw and red, streaked with blackened fabric. He tried not to wince, but every motion drew fire through his nerves. "You are reckless," Serenia said from the other side of the room. Her voice wasn't sharp. It was quieter than he'd ever heard it. She leaned against the wall, arms folded, silver tunic stained with streaks of raider blood. Ethan managed a crooked grin. Reckless kept those families breathing. She pushed off the wall and crossed him, movements fluid despite the faint limp she tried to hide. Without asking, she took his arm, her long fingers surprisingly gentle against his battered skin. A faint scent clung to her, metal, ozone, and something like crushed flowers. He stiffened. "I can handle it." Her eyes lifted to his, amethyst burning in the half-light. Humans always insist on handling pain alone. "Why? Do you fear appearing weak?" Ethan's laugh was short, bitter. "Weakness wasn't what got me discharged. Politics did. Command needed someone to blame after a mission went wrong, and I was the nearest target. So they hung me out to dry." He looked away, jaw tight. Turns out loyalty doesn't mean much in uniform. For a long moment, there was only the low hum of engines. Serenia's expression softened, though she masked it quickly. "Among my people," she said, "honor binds more tightly than law. A commander who sacrificed what their own unjustly will be stripped of name, of family, of breath. You should have been praised, not discarded." Ethan blinked at her, caught off guard by the fierceness in her tone. She released his arm, then turned toward the single bed that dominated the room. With the same regal composure she'd shown since they met, she lowered herself onto the far side of it. The mattress hissed as it adjusted to her weight. Ethan stared. "You're not serious." Her lips curved, just barely. "The ship has one bed. We share it, or you can curl up on the floor like a dishonored exile." He shook his head, but exhaustion dragged at him. Carefully, he stretched out on the other side, every muscle aching. The mattress molded to their shapes, leaving no real distance between them. For the first time since the raid, Ethan allowed his eyes to close. And just before sleep claimed him, he heard Serenia's voice, softer than the hum of engines. "You are not weak," Ethan warned. "You are human, and that may be rarer than you know." Chapter 5, The Duel of Honor. The Aurora's wake docked at Veyrathi Station, a colossal ring spinning in the glow of a red giant star. Towers of crystal and steel pierced the void, their surfaces alive with crawling glyphs of light. From the promenade windows, Ethan could see skiffs and battlecruisers drifting like sharks, bristling with weapons. Inside the station, Serena walked at his side, her shoulders square but her jaw taut. The promenade smelled of hot stone and ozone, its vaulted halls thrumming with alien chants. And waiting at the docking court, surrounded by attendants, stood a towering Veyrathi noble in gilded armor. "Serena," he intoned, his voice cold as plasma. "You shame your house, traveling with this human." His eyes flicked to Ethan, dismissive. "I will return you to your rightful path." Serena's spine stiffened. "I choose my path." The noble's nostrils flared, scales along his jaw rippling. "Then prove it, by our code through duel." His gaze swept Ethan with disdain. "Let your pet fight me if he dares." A hush fell over the chamber. Dozens of Veyrathi eyes burned with expectation. Ethan felt the weight of their contempt. He wasn't armored, wasn't bred for combat in low-gravity, dueling rings. He was just human. But Serena turned to him, her hand brushing his wrist in a rare, fleeting gesture. "You are not bound," she whispered. "Say no, and I will face it myself." Ethan met her amethyst eyes, and he smiled, tired but defiant. "No." He called me out. "Guess I should answer." The duel ring activated with a roar. Gravity fluctuated wildly inside the transparent sphere, sending sparks of light across its surface. The noble entered, blades shimmering with plasma. Ethan stepped in opposite, armed only with a training staff given by the station guards. The fight began instantly, Serena's betrothed lunging with a sweep that would have split Ethan in two. Ethan twisted aside, letting the shift in gravity carry him upward. He clung to the sphere wall, kicked off, and swung the staff hard against the noble's helm. The impact rang like a bell. The crowd gasped. Blow after blow followed, the noble pressing with sheer strength. Every strike rattling Ethan's bones. But Ethan ducked, improvised, used momentum instead of force. Where the noble's code demanded honor in direct combat, Ethan used trickery, timing a leap just as gravity inverted, sending the noble stumbling upside down. With a final desperate swing, Ethan rammed his staff into the noble's chest, riding the gravity shift to slam him hard against the floor. The arena flared, victory acknowledged. Silence, then murmurs. Shock. Ethan stood panting, sweat dripping into his eyes. Across the ring, Serena's gaze was alight with something fierce, pride. The noble struggled to rise, humiliated. Serena stepped forward, her voice ringing through the chamber. "This human has more honor than any who hide behind station law. I claim him as my chosen." And for the first time, the watching Veyrathi didn't laugh. They listened. Chapter 6, A Bed, a Choice, a Future. The Aurora's wake slipped free of Veyrathi station, its scarred hull glowing faintly in the starlight. Repairs hummed the corridors, and the ship settled into its long jump towards safer space. In their cabin, the air was quieter now. No alarms, no metallic stench of battle, only the steady heartbeat of the engines and the faint scent of ozone lingering in the recycled air. Ethan leaned against a viewport, staring at the streaks of stars stretching into infinity. His body still ached from the duel, bruises mottled his ribs, and his palms bore the raw burn of gripping the staff too long. But what weighed heavier than the pain was the silence. Serena stood behind him, tall and radiant even in the dim light. She had dismissed her ceremonial armor. Instead, she wore a simple tunic, soft against the metallic sheen of her skin, without the trappings of her house. She looked younger, less untouchable. "You humiliated him," she said finally, voice low. "The noble will not forgive. His family will not forgive." Ethan exhaled, watching his breath fog faintly against the glass. "Wouldn't be the first time someone powerful hated me. Guess I'm used to it." He turned, meeting her eyes. "Question is, are you?" For a heartbeat, the cabin felt too small, too alive. The Engine's thrum vibrated through the bed between them, reminding them of the strange intimacy forced upon them since the start. Serenia crossed the room slowly, every step measured. I was raised to serve my house, to accept the mate chosen for me. But standing there, seeing you bleed and refuse to fall, I realized I would rather break every law of my people than return to change dressed as tradition. Ethan's throat tightened. He tried to laugh it off, but the sound cracked. So what? You're saying I'm the better option? A washed-up pilot with nothing left. She stopped inches from him, amethyst eyes glowing in the low light. I am saying, she murmured, that humans are dangerous in ways no code can measure. You adapt, you endure, and somehow you make me believe survival can be choice, not duty. He searched her face, half expecting a trap, half daring to believe. And when she lifted a hand to his cheek, fingers cool and steady, Ethan didn't pull away. The bed behind him hissed as the ship shifted course, the mattress adjusting. They both looked at it, then back at each other. Ethan smirked faintly. Still only one bed. For the first time, Serenia smiled fully, sharp, radiant, undeniable. Then it is no problem, honey. Outside, the cosmos stretched wide and dangerous. But inside the cabin, with the hum of engines and the warmth of her hand against his, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years. Not exile, not survival. Hope. The Aurora's wake drifted through open space, its hull still scarred but steady. The engines purred beneath the deck like the heartbeat of some great living creature, carrying them away from the station and the noble's wrath. Beyond the viewport, alien constellations burned bright, jagged clusters of sapphire and gold, strange shapes no Earthborn astronomer had ever named. Ethan stood there, hand resting on the cool glass, his reflection faint against the stars. For the first time in years, he felt lighter, as though the ship's artificial gravity wasn't holding him down at all. Beside him, Serenia moved closer, her iridescent skin shimmering with the reflected glow of distant suns. You changed the way they looked at you, she said softly. Not with strength, not with rank, but with defiance. You made them believe in something they did not understand. He turned to her, tired but smiling. That's humanity in a nutshell. We don't always win, but we refuse to stay down. For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by the thrum of engines and the faraway murmur of alien voices drifting through the ship's intercom. Then Serenia reached for his hand, threading her long fingers through his. One bed, she whispered, her voice tinged with warmth. One path. Ethan's chest tightened as he drew her close, the stars spilling across them both like blessings. Then let's walk it together. And as the ship carried them into the unknown, two silhouettes stood side by side against the infinite night. Human stubbornness and alien strength woven into something new, something unbreakable.